Good morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you guys and girls for being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, this literally does not work. So let's get open for business and let's wake up those football gods. Good morning, guys. What's up? What's up? What's up? How's everybody doing on this day? It is Thirsty Thursday. We're getting close to the weekend. And man, whew, it's crazy that our season ended a couple weeks ago, but yet the conversation for the Dallas Cowboys has been almost nonstop because literally from the time our season ended, we started focusing in on the draft. I actually haven't started focusing on mock drafts and things like that. We have with my man DMV, who, if we can get him to 5,000 subscribers, is going to do the chip challenge. But he's breaking down players for us, and he'll be on the show tomorrow night and start bringing in another college prospect for us. And we're going to start doing a little bit more and more as we get a little further into the off season. We've got a lot of new things coming up for you, the fans. We're going to start taking in calls as well. So, be cool. We're going to be having quite a bit of good stuff for you. But we've also, of course, been talking about, our defensive coordinator and, of course, the hires that we've been making over there, some of the guys that are going and so forth. And now it's about figuring out the guys that need to be here. And that's part of the reason why I haven't started the draft, because before you really know who you're going to draft, you've got to know who you're going to keep. Now, speaking of the draft, here's the thing. We have 10 picks. Because we lost Byron Jones, Jeff Heath, Robert Quinn, and who else am I missing? I'm missing one other free agent that we lost. But because of the four big name free agents that we lost, or should I say big contracts that they ended up signing, we ended up picking up a third, a fourth, a fifth, and a sixth round compensatory pick, which is huge. Some places are still noting that, well, the Cowboys only have 6 picks because they lost their fourth pick to the Eagles, trading for Tyler Badass, and they can't really rebuild a team, with just 6 picks. Well, true, with just 6 picks, even with having 10 picks, you can't just rebuild the team. I agree with that 100%. When you look at some of our really productive drafts, when you look at 2016, we were fortunate to get Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, Malik Collins, and Anthony Brown, that basically out the box became players. Also, we got Jalen Smith in that one. That'll look back as one of the best drafts that we've had. That's, that first year, 4 starters. You look at last year's draft, by hook or crook, you look at it and say you got 4 starters, although 2 of them weren't immediate starters, and Gallimore and Tyler Badass. Day 1 starters, you had CeeDee Lamb and, of course, Diggs. That was another really good draft. The way I like to look at a draft that was being successful is you need to get one impact player that day 1 is a starter and changes the narrative of your team. You need to get a second starter on that team. You need to get a special team standout, and then you need to get some depth. If you get that in a draft, to me, that's a very successful draft. That's a very successful. So that's looking at saying 2 starters and role players as well as special teams guy. If that's all we get out of this draft, we're still going to have to either re-sign some players that we have on the team, or we're going to have to sign some free agents, because that's not going to fill up all the holes we have. You could say that we need to worry about offensive line, offensive tackle, and heir apparent for Tyron Smith. You have to look at and say, we could use a defensive tackle, a real defensive tackle. You can look and say we need linebackers. You can look and say we need safeties. You can look and say we need another cornerback. And all of a sudden, you've got more needs than you can fill through the draft. Now, the Cowboys have been really, really good at getting talent in the draft. Where I'll say that they've kind of fallen down is in free agency. And that may be because of what they've always done. They've never wanted to spend a lot of money in free agency. They're never a player in the first 2 weeks of free agency. It's always more bargain basement shopping. And it's usually guys that are a little bit older. The only 2 times that I can remember in recent history that they've really dug deep into free agency was Greg Hardy, who had issues coming back, and Brandon Carr. We paid Brandon Carr like he was going to be a shutdown corner, that he was not going to be. He was a very good player. I don't know that he fit the system and what our expectations were, but he still was a good player for us. Very consistent, always played, never got hurt. But we're going to need to do some things in free agency. Now, here's the problem for the Cowboys. Cowboys' problem is, and let's look over here. This is the current salary cap situation for all the NFL teams. You see the Jets with the most space, and of course the most holes to fill with $63 million. This is if the salary cap goes down to 175, which is the bare bones bottom. Now, I'm going to say I've heard some talk weeks ago that the NFL does not think it's going to go to that 175. They think it's going to be still closer to where it was for this year. Things that will hurt, of course, this year was the gate revenue. They say gate revenue is about 25% of the income coming in. 25%. So if you take off 25% of 197, that's $49 million. Now, I dare say that it's not quite that bad. They didn't lose all of the gate revenue. In fact, the Dallas Cowboys led the world in attendance during the pandemic. I'm not going to say that it's 50% of the gate revenue. I don't think it's that high. But it's not rock bottom. They still got some money in. But I'll also add to this, and I can't find a number on it, but there's additional revenue that came in. For example, YouTube. YouTube made a partnership with the NFL, and I don't believe that it was a charity partnership, to start carrying Red Zone and NFL Network. I don't think the NFL gave them that for free, although it is possible, like a crack dealer will give you a couple of rocks of crack to get you hooked, start getting you high on the supply, and then you got to start paying for it, because I think the NFL would love for Amazon Prime or YouTube or Yahoo Sports, one of those companies, streaming platforms, to buy up Sunday Ticket. A lot of people don't want to have DirecTV. Everybody's getting away from cable and cable providers. So it behooves you to get it away from something like that. So that may be the help. We're going to give it to you cheap, but I can guarantee you the NFL's getting some money for it. I can guarantee you, especially the way YouTube will go through and they'll hit you for any NFL clips. They get you on that real quick. So the projections of 175 may be on the light side. It should be more of 190 to 195. Still a drop from last year's 197, but then you're talking about an additional $15 to $20 million to these numbers. So, Patriots. The Patriots, after last year being in cap hell, they got $57 million to play with, and they got a lot of players coming back. So look for them to turn it around. And then it drops quite a bit to Washington at 35, the Bengals at 32, the Buccaneers at 25, the Dolphins at 23, the Ravens at 21, the Browns at 21, Chargers at 19, and we dropped from yesterday to today to $14 million. I'm not sure exactly where that drop came from. It may be off-season bonuses or, incentives that the Cowboys paid for the year. So we're 12th in salary cap space as it currently sits. We got to sign Dak Prescott. And if we franchise tag him, that means we got to come up with, $23 million more space just to get him on board at the franchise tag. And understand that the franchise tag starts working. You can declare them February 23rd. And you have 2 weeks to declare who is going to get tagged. So if the Cowboys tag Dak Prescott, they're going to have to create more space right now to do it, because he will not fit underneath the beginning of the NFL season. You've got to be under that cap. So the question is how are they going to get some cash? Well, if we look at our salary cap situation over here, and I know this is boring, people don't care, but this is the biggest part about football. When you look at what our cap numbers and where we're getting hit big time, you'll see over here the cap number for Amari Cooper is 22, Zeke Elliott 13, DeMarcus Lawrence 25, Jalen Smith is 9, and Zach Martin 17, Tyron Smith 14, and Lyle Collins 12. Now, the quickest way you can get cap money is you can do one of two things. You can restructure contracts, which is basically kicking some of the money further down the road, which, of course, is a problem because down the road at some point you have to pay up. When you think of Tyron Smith's 8-year deal, I think it was 8 years or was it 9? At the time, $98 million was like, wow, that's huge. His cap number is $14 million right now, but it's not because of the original contract. It's actually that high because we kept restructuring it. We kept borrowing money from Tyron Smith, and, it's like a payday loan. We'll get the cash now, but then it's going to cost you a lot later. Had we not done that, we would be basically having him as a cap number of next to zero. But it is what it is on that one. Now, with the television contract at the end of next season coming up, negotiations can already start now. You're going to see the salary cap explode. And this is an opportunity to say, well, we're going to have a lot of money at the end of next year. We just got to get through this year before that explosion of cash happens. So it behooves you to say, if it's a player you think that you're going to have for several years, okay, we can restructure. And the two that I will say, because Amari Cooper's deal was really 2 years. We think of it as $100 million, but really the guaranteed money was only 2 years, which means after next year, the dead money, let's take a look at this. Let's jump up to next year. Boom. Amari Cooper, if you end up releasing him, his cap number would be $22 million. But if you end up letting him go next year, you save $16 million. You only have $6 million in dead money. Not quite as bad. Same thing with Zeke. If you end up cutting him pre, it's $10 million. You don't lose quite as much. D-Law, you still got quite a bit. So with Amari Cooper's contract, basically you can look and say, well, if we go ahead and basically give him some more guaranteed money, we can spread that out. So you can easily drop Amari Cooper's number by $12 million without a lot of pain. Because you look at it and say, well, he made it through this season without, being shut down. He was definitely consistent, over 1,000 yards again. And that was without Dak Prescott. You figure we're at least good for 2 more years of Amari Cooper. So you can save some money right there. Boom. So that'll give you about 12. I wouldn't say touching Zeke Elliott's and putting it down any further because it's already too long of a contract. DeMarcus Lawrence, he came on and still played really, really well. That would be another contract that I would look at possibly redoing. And this is the caveat here. People think that when you restructure a contract, they're giving money back. No, they're not. They're actually getting more guaranteed money on the contract. Same basic numbers. It's just we're going to say, we're guaranteeing you more money. Here's a check, and we're going to do some creative accounting. Jalen Smith. Now here's where it gets to be interesting. Those are really only the two that I would look at saying, let's do something with. Maybe Zach Martin. The rest of them, I'm not sure that I would touch. Here's where the other piece of work that you have is if you designate, you got two guys you can designate post June 1st cuts. If you're going to cut somebody, it's better to cut them sooner than later so that way they have an opportunity to get a job. We made that mistake with Dez Bryant. We held on to him and really screwed him for getting an opportunity to go elsewhere. But here's what you got. If you designate Jalen Smith a post June 1st, and I'm not advocating cutting anybody, a post June 1st cut, you only have $2.6 million in dead money this year, but you save $7.2. Another one that you're not doing Zach Martin, Tyron Smith. If your thinking is we're going to draft another tackle, and you do draft a tackle to replace him, you could save $10 million with Tyron Smith. I'm not saying to cut Tyron Smith, but if you're designating him, you have to look at all these avenues of where do we put all of our resources. Lyle Collins, another one. You could look at it and say, $8.5 million we can save with Lyle Collins. And maybe that changes how you draft in the draft. Maybe you look for the heir apparent for Tyron Smith and you end up starting him at right tackle. This gives you time to get him ready to go, gives you $8.5 million of cap space, and allows you to be able to do things. So you could go through each and every one of these guys and see where is it that we can go. As you go further and further down, there's not as much money to grab. But we do have a couple of things that could gate us an additional $35 million. Because ultimately, what you have to look at is, am I better off drafting a tackle to take over for Lyle Collins and taking that $8.5 million and getting myself a safety? And that's the kind of things that we have to start looking at or I shouldn't say we have to start looking at. I should say that the Dallas Cowboys have to make those kinds of decisions on what to do. You know, we went through the whole season without Lyle Collins. Wasn't good, but it did get better as the season went on. You can look at something like saying, maybe we take Connor Williams, we make him the right tackle. Connor McGovern becomes our starting guard, and Tyler Badass becomes our our center. And, of course, Zach Martin's the guard, and then Tyron Smith is our other tackle. And then we have other guys as backups that we have currently playing the starters. And these are the things that you have to play. You want to keep all your guys, but the reality is you can't. And these are going to be some hard decisions to make. We'll look at next time, we'll look at some of the defensive backs because we can't let all of them go. We have, Jordan Lewis, we have Xavier Woods, we have Awuzie that are all free agents. And, as nice as it would be to say we're going to replace all of them through the draft and free agency, the reality is we can't replace all of them. So we have to start figuring out who are the ones that we need to have stay and who are the ones that we need to have go. All right, I know this wasn't exciting, where we're talking about the Eagles being trash or Dak Prescott talk. It's literally the business and sense of football. And it's more than anything else, most important in how you build a team. All right, y'all, I hope you have a great Thursday, and I will see you soon. I got to head on up to the workshop because I got a lot of racks to get together. I'll talk to you guys later.